We have an app for pretty much everything these days, right? From getting food delivered to your door to learning a whole new language. So it's really no surprise that apps are now aiming to help us manage our own brains, specifically ADHD. But here's the big question. Can a piece of software on your phone really help with something as complex as a neurodevelopmental condition? Or is this just another digital trend? Let's get into it.
So, to figure this out, we're going to have to look at the actual science, hear from real people who are using these apps, and try to understand if these digital tools are a legit breakthrough or, just a high-tech distraction. Okay, first things first. Before we can even talk about a solution, we have to understand the size of the challenge itself. What are we really talking about when we say ADHD? Well, let's start with this number, 7.2%. According to a major review of studies, that's the percentage of kids around the world who are diagnosed with ADHD. So right away, you can see this is not a small issue. It affects millions and millions of kids, their families, and of course, adults too.
But ADHD is so much more than just, having a hard time paying attention. It's really a trio of core symptoms. There's the inattention, sure, but also hyperactivity and impulsivity. And this trio can have a huge impact on everything, from how you do in school or at work to your personal relationships.
And honestly, the stakes are super high. When ADHD isn't managed well, the fallout can be pretty serious, affecting a person's whole life, which is exactly why finding support tools that actually work is so important. And that brings us right back to technology. I mean, with a smartphone in practically every hand, developers saw a huge opportunity here. And bam, all of a sudden, there's just this explosion of apps for everything you can think of. Time management, focus, building routines, tracking symptoms, you name it. They're all promising this new, super accessible way to get help right from your pocket.
So here we are again, back at that big question. Do these apps actually do what they say they're going to do? To figure that out, we've got to look past the shiny App Store descriptions and see what the evidence really says. All right, so what does the clinical research tell us? Luckily, scientists have been digging into this exact question. Let's take a look at the data.
A pretty recent systematic review pulled together the results from 14 different studies on these apps. So this wasn't just about one or two apps. It was a really broad look at the whole landscape to try and see what's working and what isn't. And what they found was, well, it was a real mixed bag. For instance, an app called Brush DJ, get this, actually helped kids improve their toothbrushing routine. Another one helped caregivers track symptoms better. But then you have an app like Focus ADHD. A lot of people used it, but it didn't really make a dent in helping them stick to their medication. So the results are kind of all over the place.
So the main takeaway from all the lab coats is this. These apps seem to work best when they're designed for a very specific, targeted job, like guiding a single routine or tracking one behavior. Some even showed real cognitive benefits, which is amazing. But, and this is a big but, they are definitely not a magic bullet. They're not a cure-all for every challenge that comes with ADHD.
Okay, so that's the science. Now let's bring it back to the real world. What do these apps actually look like, and how are people using them day to day? So let's check out a really popular one called Inflow. Its whole approach is based on cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which is all about helping you recognize and reframe unhelpful thought patterns. It has a ton of content, a supportive community, but there are some big cons too. It costs money, and this is absolutely crucial. It is not a replacement for actual therapy with a professional. Then you've got something like Timo, which calls itself your AI planner. This is a perfect example of that targeted approach we just talked about. It uses AI to help create visual schedules, it's got focus timers. It's really designed from the ground up to be neurodivergent friendly, meaning it's built for brains that just work a little differently. Now remember how that big scientific review found that some apps were really effective for parents and caregivers? Well, this is where the real-world stories get pretty powerful. Just listen to this quote from a parent on Reddit talking about an app called Goalie. I mean, wow, that says it all, doesn't it? Going from 50% independence in a morning routine all the way up to 90%? For that parent and that kid, that is an absolutely life-changing difference. But how'd they get there? It wasn't magic, and it definitely wasn't instant. This little journey tells the whole story. At first, the app was new and fun, so engagement was high. But then, the novelty wore off. And this is the key part. The parent had to step in, stay consistent, and tweak the rewards. The real breakthrough didn't even happen until 3 or 4 months in. It just goes to show you, long-term commitment is everything. Okay, so we've looked at the clinical studies and we've heard the real-world stories. It's time to put it all together and finally answer our big question.
The researchers in that review use this very specific phrase, adjunctive instrument. I know, it sounds super technical, but it's actually the perfect way to describe these apps. Think of it as a tool that you use to supplement or enhance your main treatment plan, not to replace it.
So, what's the bottom line here? What should you really take away from all this? First, apps work best when they're focused on specific, targeted goals. Second, for them to work, you need a well-designed app, and you have to be committed to using it. Third, and this is the most important one, think of them as a promising supplement, not a replacement for professional care. And finally, the science on this is still pretty new, so we definitely need more long-term research.
And that leaves us with one final, much bigger question to think about. These ADHD apps, they're really just the beginning. As our technology and our minds become more and more intertwined, we have to ask ourselves, what is the future of digital mental health going to look like? And how do we make sure these tools genuinely help, instead of just adding to all the noise?